Hey everyone, welcome back, and the other day I realized that, apparently, of every type videos are actually kind of fun. Only thing is, anything that would actually make sense has already been done more times than I can count. So how could I make this a little more interesting? Well, you already saw the title, so there's no point in suspense. I have decided to make a HONEDGE of every type. How this is going to work is that I'm going to take different kinds of swords or weapons and try to associate them with Pokemon types, and make a HONEDGE. One last thing before I get into the video. Lately I've been putting a time-lapse into my videos to add to the length, but that's actually the hardest part for these videos, and I don't want to put myself through, a lot of these, so I'm just gonna leave it out. Without further ado, let's hop in. And starting with the starter types, here is the Grass-type HONEDGE, Wooden HONEDGE, a Grass Ghost type. These Pokemon are the spirits of a lumberjack possessing the axe they used in life. They wander the forests at night with Phantump and Trevenant. How I am gonna do these things is actually fairly simple. Take the new type, add either Ghost or Steel, depending on if it's made of metal or not. In this case, it's a wooden axe, so just Ghost. Makes sense for an axe too, because axes chop down trees. Trees are plants, and the grass type is really just the plant type, so it comes full circle. The next type I'm doing is the fire type, so here is Flaming HONEDGE, a fire ghost type. This HONEDGE is among the most violent, mercilessly cutting and burning prey simultaneously. A flaming sword is a common trope among pop culture, especially when appearing for a super powerful attack, so this form might have had a higher than average attack stat. Oh well. The final one of the starter types is water, so here is Aquatic HONEDGE, a steel water type. Historians believe that these Pokemon were favored by pirates 200 years ago. Now they wander the shipwrecks they once lived on. It's based on the cutlass, a sword seen by stereotypical pirates, and pirates sail on the ocean. The ocean is water, so yeah, it all makes sense. Now I know some smart aleck out there is gonna say,
Actually, Pikachu is a starter type. Because of yellow, let's go Pikachu, and for Ash. So technically, electric is a starter type.
already ahead of you. Here's Thunderous HONEDGE, an electric and steel type. This Pokemon swings its hammer body using blunt force. When it swings, lightning bolts fly off. I understand that basing it off of Mjolnir is already a very popular idea, but if it ain't broke, why fix it? The ribbon even looks like a lightning bolt. And yes, technically normal is a starter type because of Let's Go Eevee, so let's do that one next. Here's Ordinary HONEDGE, a normal and steel type. Commonly found on ranches, these Pokemon are favored for starter Pokemon because of their fairly metal disposition. See, back in medieval times, ordinary people didn't have weapons, so when it came for, mobs, they used what they could find, torches and pitchforks, and since torches are obviously fire instead of normal, the pitchfork seemed fitting. Now that we're out of the technically starter territory, let's do fighting. Here's Raging HONEDGE, a fighting and steel type. This form of HONEDGE is by far the most violent. It was used to torture prisoners long ago. In battle, it recklessly swings its heavy body. It's based on a Morning Star, a rather violent weapon just like this Pokemon. It also has a black eye, and the ribbons resemble the loose straps on a black belt's headband, tying it back to the fighting type. The next type on our list is Dark, so here is Sadistic HONEDGE, a dark and steel type. This Pokemon will prolong their prey's suffering by strategically slicing and stabbing them. It is intelligent but cruel. So, daggers are a fairly common form of murder weapon, especially in ye olden days when guns didn't exist. I mean, just look at Julius Caesar. Bro was stabbed 23 individual times. And since the dark type's whole identity is dirty tricks, and to be fair, murder is a kind of mean thing to do, it all makes sense. Next up is Psychic. So here's Mystic HONEDGE, a psychic and ghost type. When held, it sends the holder visions of the future. In battle, it sends out powerful elemental blasts. So, Psychic being a more magical type, it didn't make any sense for a weapon, so instead I decided to make it a magical staff. Nothing else to it. Fairy is in a similar boat to Psychic, with it being a more magical type than others. So, here is Fey HONEDGE, a fairy and ghost type. These Pokemon disguise themselves as children toys to lure kids into the forest. It is suggested that once it has them captured, it turns them into more of this Pokemon. Since I couldn't come up with a good weapon for Fairy, just like Psychic, I opted for a Fairy Wand, similar to those little kids' toys. And instead of ribbons, like the other Honedge, this one has little streamers on said toys. The next type on our list is Ice, and this one was a bit tricky. I couldn't think of any weapons that would fit the Ice type, or any magical things like Fairy or Psychic. Let's just take a look. Here is Frigid Honedge, an Ice and Steel type. This Pokemon lives on the top of steep, icy mountains. Should they find a traveler stuck in the snow, Honedge helps them to safety. It is a kind Pokemon. So, as you can see, it's an Ice Pick. Well, technically it's not a weapon, but it's a sharp metal thing that you don't want to get hit with, so I think it works. The next type is Poison, and similarly to Ice, I couldn't think of any weapon. I mean, I can do a Poison Dagger, but the Dark type already is a dagger, and I don't want too much repetition. Anyways, here's Corrosive Honedge, a Poison and Steel type. These Pokemon have been studied by doctors, and the viscous liquid within their bodies can, if prepared correctly, can cure the flu, back pain, migraines, and more. This is definitely getting close to the threshold of not a weapon, but if it hasn't already crossed it, but it follows the same reasoning as Ice. It's a sharp metal thing that hurts you if you get stabbed by it. Besides, I've always thought of the Poison type as a chemical type, and what is medicine if not just chemicals? The type that's next up is Bug, and while nothing might pop up immediately, I have a plan. Here is Hollowed Honedge, a ghost and bug type. The smallest form of Honedge, this Pokemon is said to be wielded by a bug hero to slay an evil legendary Pokemon. So I was thinking, Bug Sword. Bug with Sword. Hollow Knight. Yeah, this Pokemon is an homage to one of my favorite games of all time, Hollow Knight, taking form in the Night Snail. I hope you like this form as much as I do. From the bottom of the earth up to the skies, we're doing the flying type next. So here's Soaring Honedge, a flying and ghost type. Both the bow and the arrow are part of this Pokemon's body. When it fires the arrow, it is able to move on its own. If I had a nickel for every ghost-type bow and arrow Pokemon, I would have 2 nickels. But it's not a lot, but it's weird to happen twice. Jokes aside, a bow and arrow seemed like the only rational choice. I also tried to convince myself that the arrow tip looks like a bird beak, but that really might just be pushing it. After soaring through the skies, we ground ourselves once again for, you guessed it, the ground type. Here's Earthen Honedge, the ground and steel type. This Pokemon was made by the same people that created Golurk. It may look sharp, but it actually uses bludgeoning force to attack. Boy, I love my puns. It's a Claymore made out of clay. I mean, there are plenty of other ground types that are made out of clay. Just look at Golurk, Runarigus, and Claydol. Heck, Claydol has clay in the name. You know what? You know what other Pokemon is kind of earthy? The rock type. So here's Stony Honedge, a rock and ghost type. This Pokemon has been dated back to prehistoric times, being possessed by some of the earliest humans and their weapons. It is made invaluable to historians. It's based off of stone weapons and tools from the Stone Age. Heck, this one could probably be a past Paradox Pokemon. Rugged Blade, anyone? And finally, we arrive at the penultimate type, Dragon. So what kind of sword would a dragon be? Well, apparently not even a sword. Here is Arcane Honedge, a dragon and ghost type. These Pokemon are the souls of ancient dragon tamers possessing the whip they once used to tame said dragons. In a cruel twist of fate, they themselves became a dragon Pokemon. I chose a whip for this form for a few reasons. Firstly, whips are long, skinny, and powerful. You know what else is? A dragon. Specifically, the Eastern depiction of dragons. Hence why it kind of looks like a dragon. Long and serpentine. The strings even look like horns. Secondly, whips are often used to tame wild animals like, a dragon. I rest my case. Whip dragon. And that was definitely a lot. Definitely the most work I've put into one video, so thanks for staying until the end. Who knows, if this video does good enough, maybe I'll make a part 2, making a doublet of every type. But until then, see ya. Stay safe.